Grace to you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. My name is Dr. John Diamond. This is the show America Unhinged, that is the program that is fervently patriotic and unapologetically Christian. You can find us, if you're watching us live, you're probably watching us either on Brighteon.tv right through your web browser. If you are, I want you to know that we are also available on Roku. So if you have any TV you've probably bought in the last 5 years, it's a smart TV. You can go to the Roku app, search for Brighteon.tv, save that in your favorites, and watch that from the comfort of your own home. If you have a business or a doctor's office or a dental office or somewhere that you actually show, CNN or Fox to the people waiting in your waiting room, please switch over and start showing us. Nobody wants to walk into I definitely don't want to walk into a waiting room and having to listen to that trash from CNN and Fox and all these other ones. So please help share this platform as much as you can. And when we come back, we're going to have two wonderful guests today. Join us.
Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.
Welcome back to America Unhinged. Please find me at americaunhingedradio.com. I'd ask you to please go there and subscribe to our website. We send out email alerts once a week, reminding you of all the guests that we had last week and then announcing all the guests that we're going to have on the upcoming week. And you would get that in your inbox every Saturday morning. Let me run through the show today. We are live on Brighteon.tv. So if you want to catch any of these hosts, if the producer can put the schedule up, you can click on any of these links and it will take you directly to the host website, which is a wonderful feature. I'm followed by the Pete Santilli Show. My good friend Fior Hernandez will follow that with Byline and New. Good Bob Sisson will be on. Jeff and Shady will have the Matrix Groove. Alan Keyes will have the 1 to 3 spot with Let's Talk America. Mike Adams and the Health Ranger, and then Clay Clark will be on with their Thrive Time show. Daniel Bobinski, who is my first guest today, will be on with the Voice of Conservative Values, followed by Scott Kesterson at Bards FM. A new guest that we have, our new host, that we have on this is Patrick Byrne with the Patrick Byrne Show. And then our day always ends with the Stu Peters Show, and then Ann Vandersteel with Steel Truth. So let me run off with our first scripture here. This is kind of just follows of what we dealt with yesterday. But if we can put up First Thessalonians 5:18, very important scripture for your individual life. It says, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." If you were with us yesterday, and we had a brother on named Paul who gives a list of testimonies on his website. One of the things I think we as Christians do is we like to give thanks when things are going our way, and we don't give thanks when things are not going our way. And there have been more times in my life, and I've been walking with the Lord 30 years, there's been a lot of times that things didn't go my way, and I threw a little hissy fit and a temper tantrum, and, a week or 6 months later, I realized why it didn't happen, and then I'm thanking God, thank you. You basically pulled me out of a fire, because if that would have happened the way I wanted it to happen, we'd be in serious trouble here today. So, After several years of those little tiny hissy fits, I started to learn to really trust the Lord a whole lot more. And that's what I do now. Whatever happens, as long as we're continually walking in that covenant relationship with Christ, we can be assured in the sovereignty of God that things are happening for a reason. We may not understand them. We may not see them. Just kind of like the book of Job. But keeping the right attitude during the midst of any trial is very, very important. So I hope you saw yesterday's show. It was a very, very inspirational show with many of the testimonies that were given there. So my first guest was going to be part of the Brighteon week. Unfortunately, we've got like 30 hosts, and I only had 10 slots available. Got some wires crossed there, but I am just blessed to have on Daniel Bobinski today. He's going to be on later today with the voice of conservative values. Can you go ahead and run his promo trailer, please?
He's a journalist with the most read column on Uncover DC. He's the founder and editor of TrueIdahoNews.com. He's a certified behavioral and motivational analyst with 30 years experience as an executive coach and corporate trainer. He's an international best-selling and award-winning author. He's the host of the Voice of Conservative Values radio show. And for the next hour, the Voice of Conservative Values with Daniel Bobinski is coming to you on live TV. So get ready for Daniel to separate fact from fiction and reveal the truth from a solid Judeo-Christian conservative worldview. And now, here's Daniel.
Well, I guess that's the best introduction you can possibly get. So Daniel Bobinski, I'd like to welcome you to America Unhinged this morning.
Thank you, John. Good morning to you.
Man, I tell you what, I mean, your show is extremely, extremely powerful. Before we get into the kind of the nuts and the bolts of that, I mean, me and you talked for quite a while the other night, and you were kind of laying out your background and stuff. Man, I was just blown away. I actually called Bob Denny, and I'm like, hey, do you realize this guy's background? I mean, you want to talk about an asset to this not only the show, but to the whole network, to Brighteon TV. So share with us, if you would, please, kind of your pedigree, I guess you would say.
Sure. Well, it's kind of weird because I'm in politics now, and I'm in media now, and I've got a website now that has to do with media, and I got the radio show and the podcast and the TV show and all this stuff. But before that, I was an executive coach and corporate trainer for 30 years. I did 6 years in the Navy. Back here on the wall behind me is some of my Navy paraphernalia, and I was very proud to serve for 6 years in the Navy. And I got out, and I had a lot of success in the Navy, but I also had a lot of failures, and I didn't really know what I had done to cause either one. And I met this guy at church. He was a retired executive, and this was before the term coaching was called coaching. This is way back in the late 80s, and he worked with people one-on-one. And so I said, you know what, I could probably use some help. I mean, little direction. So he did. He worked with me every week. And then one day in my late 20s, he says, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Which was kind of insulting, when you're 27 years old, 28 years old. And, I said, you know what I want to do is teach people what you're teaching me, because this is powerful stuff. I said, if 10% of the world had this, the world would be a phenomenal place. And his reply was, if 1% of the world had this, the world would be a phenomenal place. So he taught me how to coach, basically. He took me under his wing. He taught me how to coach. He started sending me clients, and then I ended up getting my own clients, and took it to corporate America. And I finally went back to college. I hadn't gone to college. I went back to college. I got an undergraduate in workforce education and development. I ended up getting a master's degree in training and development. And then I did my doctoral work. I did everything. In fact, I even completed half the dissertation. So I'm really half a paper away from a PhD in organizational learning and leadership. But really for 30 years, my bread and butter was doing executive coaching and corporate training. People come in, they bring me in and ask me to help with their teams. And that's this book over here over my left corner, or the orange covered book. That was an international bestseller called Creating Passion-Driven Teams. So I'm still doing coaching on the side. I still have coaching clients and corporate training clients that I work with. But really about, I'd say 2 years ago, John, my largest client decided they were a Fortune 50 company, and they developed their own in-house university. And one day I got a phone call and said, okay, the things that you're doing for us, we're going to do it in-house now, because they could save a lot more money that way. I don't blame them, but it meant a big chunk of my income just disappeared. Right. I'd been with them for 10 years. So I got a political bug in my body, and I'm reading all these politic columns, and I came across this article by Tracy Beans with Uncover DC. And I went to the website, and she had just started the website. And I'm a writer. And so now when you go to that website, up pops a little pop-up that says, subscribe. Well, when I went there 2 years ago, it popped up and said, are you a writer? We're looking for writers. So I emailed her. We had a talk on the phone. Next thing I know, I'm writing for Tracy Beans over at Uncover DC. And that I guess we're coming up on 2 years now, John. I was at a prayer meeting on New Year's Eve, and a friend of mine said, I want this guy to pray for you in your situation. And I'd never met him before. And he prayed over me, and he looks at me, he goes, and he didn't know me. He says, God's got you in a hallway of transition. And sure enough, here I am. I ended up writing probably the most popular column, the most read column on Uncover DC. It had to do with masks. That got me hooked up with Alan Keyes, because Alan Keyes wanted to interview me based on that column. And then I developed a relationship with Alan, started guest hosting for Alan. And next thing I know, they're saying, hey, Brighteon's doing this thing. You wanna do your own show? And I'm like, twist my arm. This is a lot of fun.
Exactly. And that's the same testimony. That's why I loved having all the Brighteon hosts on, because their testimony, I mean, everybody from Ann Vandersteel on is almost identical. For 15, 20 years, the Lord had me doing this certain thing. And now all of a sudden, about 2 years ago, this transition happened. It happened in my life, and I've talked about it on the show here. And to hear you say the exact same thing just really talks again about the sovereignty of God. And just as he stuck Moses in a basket because he had to be raised in the household of government so he would know how to be a government leader. The hand of God is on your life. It's on my life. Many of the hosts that we have here on Brighteon TV, God's been putting us together for this day and this hour. So that is just such encouraging message to hear that come from you this morning.
Well, it's your opening verse this morning too. In all things give thanks. And I'm always careful to when I'm teaching, because I was a youth pastor and a music minister and a men's pastor in the various churches I've been in, and now our family does a home church with other families. But whenever I talk on that particular verse, I'm always careful to underscore that it's give thanks in all things. It doesn't say give thanks for all things.
All things, exactly.
No matter what situation you're in, it's like, thank you, God, that you're in control. I'm not thanking for this really bad thing I'm going through. I'm not thanking you for that, but I'm thanking that you're in control in this.
Exactly. And the right attitude in the midst of a trial determines on whether or not you're promoted to the next level, because that was really the accusation that Satan had against Job. He's only praising you because you're blessing him. Take everything and he'll curse you to your face. And Job basically, spit in Satan's face and said, no, I'm going to praise him in the midst of the storm. So that's a very good lesson. I'm glad you brought that in and not for.
Yeah, it's very important. So anyways, I've thoroughly enjoyed getting involved in politics. I was, like I said, a political junkie from way back. I helped some friends when I just got out of the Navy and I was still living in San Diego. I helped a friend get elected to the San Diego County School Board. And I've always thought, well, I'm not sure I want to get into politics. It's kind of, it sucks you in. And past couple of years, I think I've been sucked in. I've been finally able to express myself and share some thoughts. And the cool thing is, you talk about how God just works everything together. Along the way, I ended up getting certified as a behavioral analyst and certified as a motivational analyst. When I'm working with executives, guys who are managing huge teams, or they're managing $5 or maybe even $5 billion budgets. You work with people and you stop becoming intimidated by the dollars and the prestige, and they're just people. And that really helped me in dealing with all this political stuff. I mean, I have conversations with our lieutenant governor. In fact, on the Voice of Conservative Values next week, John, my guest is going to be Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeehan here from Idaho.
Great.
But these people in these positions, they don't intimidate me anymore. That's what's so cool about it. And I can just talk to them like real people.
And that's important. That's important to understand, because for whatever reason, whether it's pastors or whether it's government officials, we tend to put these people up on some kind of pedestals and not realize they put on their pants the same way that we do. We've all got gifts and talents, and we're supposed to be working together and edifying one another rather than putting, and you said something very important, because my next guest is going to be talking about that too, because a lot of the people that are now involved in the movements that we're involved in were just like you. I really don't want to get involved in this. It's kind of dirty and it's nasty. And if it's not the people of light getting involved in it, it's just going to get darker and darker. So that's what encourages me, is that type of conviction that I've had and that I see in you.
It has to be a conviction, and it has to be a passion. I think I wake up every day and I realize, John, we're at war. This is a spiritual battle, and I thankfully, I was in the Navy, so I have a little bit of a military perspective on things. But you get up every morning and you have a job to do, and you do the job even when things look like they're falling in on you. You still go and you do the job. So when the political dominoes aren't lined up right and it doesn't look good, you still got to get in there and stay focused and report on the facts and get the people aware. And to me, John, the biggest thing that I see right now is that people are upset about stuff, but they don't know what to do, or they lack some leadership. And some people, they want to step up and do some leadership stuff, but I'm a little frustrated with what I'm seeing in my local region, as people are floundering in some cases. So I've actually stepped up, and a friend of mine and I are going to be putting on some classes on teaching people in political circles how to develop a team. I mean, that's what I did for 30 years, was helping to develop teams. Good. So let's bring that to the political circle and help campaigns get more organized.
Awesome. No, that is so very needed, because there's so many people. I attempted a run for governor here in Pennsylvania in 2016. And I lacked everything that you're talking about. I lacked a team. Of course, you lack the money just as a grassroots guy, because you don't have all the deep state behind you. But what you're doing is absolutely awesome. So when you do come up with that, there's a lot of people came out of the woodwork after this election, and then they were very energized, but they didn't know what to do, and most of them fell away. So we really need to have that type of material to vet and then raise up, the good Christian leaders, constitutional leaders. So absolutely. Let me know when you get that on, and we will promote that as much as we can.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna videotape it, and we're gonna make it available for people to see. And you mentioned the key thing, and that's the constitutional conservatives. One of the things, as a Christian, I look at what John Adams wrote when he was a sitting president. He wrote to the Massachusetts militia in 1798 and said that our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And you look at what John Jay said when this guy was the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. He says, Providence has given us the ability to choose our rulers. Correct. We should be choosing Christians.
Absolutely.
Because then you have somebody who is, they know that every thought, that every motive is accountable to the holy God of the universe, and they're going to make decisions in alignment with the Constitution for the people. If you don't have that relationship, if you don't know that your every thought and motive is being analyzed by God and known by God, then you tend to make decisions more for yourself, and you're gaming the system. So it really is important to find conservative Christians, get them energized, get them focused, because if they don't get in, then the establishment Republicans get in. And I'm finding, and maybe you saw this too, with the Republican Party, they don't care. I'm finding, as long as you've got an R after your name, they want you in the office. It's like, wait a minute, time. That's where we get into these problems.
Right.
We've got to identify solid conservative Christians and get them elected.
Yeah, that's absolute true. And you think about what you just said. John Jay, very first United States Supreme Court justice, said that God has given us the ability to choose our own leaders. You ought to be choosing Christians as your leaders, because like you said, they not only have that moral conviction from the Spirit of God. I actually taught a class on this here recently. I said, every one of you was assigned an angel at birth. You call it a guardian angel, but it's actually more of a record keeper, and everything you do, everything you say is being written down in a book, and that book is going to be presented. So if a politician is in office and they don't understand that all these backroom deals that they're doing that nobody sees and nobody knows is going to be exposed, that would be a whole different scenario on the kind of checks and balances of what we do as politicians.
So I wasn't planning on doing this, but I will. This book sits on my desk all the time. This is by David Barton. It's called Original Intent. And it's not, the thumbs up. You've probably read the book, huh? Mm-hmm. If I would strongly encourage people to get this book, and in this book, you will find that in the first constitutions for the various states, I think 12 of the 13 constitutions required some kind of oath that you believed in the God of the universe. One of them actually required that you believed in Jesus Christ and that he was the only true Son of God. So these state constitutions required people to be Christians in order to hold public office. That's how this country started out. And so when people look back and they go, well, we weren't a Christian nation, and you get Barack Obama who said that we weren't a Christian nation, it's like, well, we have evidence, sir, to the contrary. Yes. This evidence here, right here, you look up in the original constitutions, and I think that's what John Adams wrote. This is not going to work unless we have that mindset. And by the way, people say, well, how come it wasn't in the federal constitution? The answer is because it was already in all the state constitutions.
Correct.
And they already knew that. And everybody had that same worldview. And you've got to have that worldview. And by the way, let me give a little plug, if I can, to my wife's Constitution class. If you go to tiny.cc/Constitution1, that's all got to be all lowercase, by the way, tiny.cc/Constitution1. That'll be her first class. And then you do Constitution and the number 2 and Constitution and the number 3. And she has a 6-session course on the Constitution. And she goes through the entire Constitution and looks at it from the Judeo-Christian worldview that the founders had. And she brings in all the data, and it's engaging. It's not one of these, boring, lawyer type data dumps on the Constitution. It's very engaging, and she references it, and people come and they go, wow, I never knew that before. So I encourage people to study the Constitution. In fact, wouldn't it be nice if we could make it mandatory that every person elected to Congress had to pass a test on the Constitution?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I took an oath as an Air Force veteran. I took an oath at 18 to support and defend the Constitution. I'd never read it. I mean, you should have to pass a test before you even get out of high school. If you're going to go vote the second you get out of high school, you better know what in the world you're voting on. And I'm glad you brought that book up, because Original Intent was the very first book that I had ever read concerning any of this. Man, and it opened up so many doors and so many avenues for me to study. It's unbelievable. We're going to be starting an online thing called Peacemakers University, and I would love to get your wife's course on there. I'd love to get your political course on how to, get people into office and build teams. I mean, God's been putting something together for quite a long time, so we definitely need to be working together to try to get this stuff out. We got about 2 minutes left, Dan. You want to give some people a teaser of what your show is going to be like today? Because I found that fascinating.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so later today, here on the very own Brighteon TV network, I'm going to be on at 4 o'clock Eastern on the Voice of Conservative Values, 2 o'clock Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. But we're going to have the topic's basically going to be censorship. I'm going to have Wendy Strock Mahoney on from Uncover DC. We're talking about these election frauds in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And the fact that people aren't in jail is going to be just mind-blowing when you see the evidence. Georgia governor has come out and said, we've got fraud. And yet you have the Homeland Security people saying that if you talk about election fraud, then you get classified as a domestic terrorist. We'll be talking about that. In the second half of my show today, I'm going to have Dr. Joshua Dopko on. He's an emergency room physician, emergency department guy, has been for 20 years. And he has had enough with the COVID and the clot shot fiasco. He's actually changing the way he does medicine, and we're going to be talking about what that looks like. So it's going to be an exciting show.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about Brighteon TV. There are so many experts out there that have so much knowledge, not just as far as the hosts who have been doing this, but the guests that we're bringing on. So I look forward to watching that for my own personal edification later on this afternoon. And that's what I told my wife in a conversation here the other day. I said, I'm learning so much just by interviewing people that it's powerful. So Daniel, God bless you, brother. I appreciate you being on the show, and I definitely want to have further dialogue with you down the road about how to implement some of these courses and help train people in the things that they need to know.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, God bless. Thank you. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Please go to Daniel's show later on this afternoon and watch that. I plan on tuning in. I got a TV right here next to me while I do my busy work, so I'll be doing that. So when we come back, we're going to be looking at Defend Our Union. Please join us after this break. Welcome back to America Unhinged. I hope you enjoyed the first segment with Daniel Bobinski. Please check out his show later today. A lot of information you're probably not going to get anywhere else. My next guest is a gentleman named Raj Doraisamy. We met actually at a Clay Clark event down in Tulsa back in, I believe it was April. He came up to me and was telling me about the organization that they had just started. And he was saying, you know, I was one of those guys that just kind of went through life and, you know, dealt with family and church and everything and never got involved in anything politically. And he learned, I think, like the rest of us did, that, you know, our kind of apathy just let the enemy take everything over. And he kind of had a major conviction in his heart, never let that happen again. So what God has done through this organization in just the last 6 months is amazing. It's really kind of the same with Brighteon TV. What has happened just in 3 months here is filling a major need for alternate journalism. And Raj and his team have been working on several things. And one is called Mad as Hell University. He sent me a video. And he said they're going to try to release these every week. And I said, well, get them over to me and we'll get you a spot on my show and let you show that, because this is a grassroots organization. They're not just creating videos. I mean, I'll let you talk about that a little bit more when we come back. But producer, please go ahead and run that Mad as Hell University spot for us, please.
Listen, in 1962, they said we will remove prayer from schools, and we let them. And we didn't even put up a fight. In 73, Roe v. Wade, they said human life doesn't matter. Then they said, we're going to take your businesses and we're going to shut them down. We're going to take your schools and we're going to shut them down. We're going to say if you don't take a jab, you can't go to college, you can't work. And listen, that stops right here, right now with you. You are the key. You have always been the key. It's not just the people on this stage, it's you. That's why this country was built and run by we the people.
Americans are spending $430 million more every day on gasoline.
We're looking for answers. We're pissed off, lost, seeking truth and unbiased information. We want to make our country safe again. We are passionately holding on to our freedom. We want to defend our nation. Here is the antidote to powerlessness. Constructive, not destructive. Welcome to Mad as Hell University.
Welcome, defenders, to Mad as Hell University, where we give you constructive tools instead of destructive fears. I'm your host, Raj Doraisamy. I came to the United States in 1986. I left 3 countries to get here. What I saw in Ethiopia, where I was born, Zambia, and then Zimbabwe, is unfortunately where the United States is heading today. I don't want that. I know you don't want that. We want to save our country. If you do not face your anger with wisdom, you will not find a strategy to overcome the problem. This is what we do at Mad as Hell University. This week, we're giving you the tools you need to make informed health decisions about the COVID vaccines. But first, a shout out to our sponsors who made this program possible. On September 9th, 2021, Mr. Biden signed an executive order mandating vaccines for COVID-19. This is not the law. It may not even be constitutional. Last week, Attorney Jeff Childers told us about the case Jacobson versus Massachusetts.
So starting about 6 months ago, or maybe longer, the media started running stories about this case. And it's this antique case from 1905 where the Supreme Court said that Massachusetts law requiring its citizens to get smallpox injections during outbreaks or get a $5 fine was okay. All right. So the Supreme Court blessed that. And so, starting, maybe a year ago, the media was running articles about this case and how it was a mandate killer, right? I mean, it would just support any mandate the government wanted to do, even though it's, 140 years old. Even though at the time it was only applicable during smallpox outbreaks, which is like a huge killer. And there was only a $5 fine, and the smallpox vaccine had been around since the 1700s, and it was well known and safe. So anyway, a lot of lawyers got scared of this case, this Jacobson case, and in different places, like in Texas, there's this Methodist hospital case where a federal judge upheld the hospital's vaccine mandate and cited the Jacobson case. And so everybody was terrified of it, but they don't understand what the case really says. And that's what we used in our template. We used, instead of running from Jacobson, we embraced Jacobson. Because what Jacobson says, and granted that language is a little archaic, right? It's not these and thous or anything, but it's pretty dense. And what it really says is the Supreme Court said, hey, the federal Constitution doesn't say anything about vaccine mandates. So you have to look to the law of the individual state.
In Jacobson versus Massachusetts, the case was decided in favor of individual state rights. But the smallpox vaccine was 95% effective. Studies show that you wouldn't have needed a booster shot for 5 years. Partial immunity of the smallpox vaccine lasted 10 years. No monthly smallpox booster shots there. Take that, COVID. And the syringe is not going in your arm. Bill Mitchell from Your Voice Network News just broke a story that the United Kingdom is looking to be the first country to make COVID an endemic, not just a pandemic. Ending COVID. Wow, that sounds right, right? Well, that's not what endemic means. Endemic means, according to dictionary.com, it's an adjective. That means natural to, native to, confined to, or widespread within a population of people. In other words, suck it up and line up with your arms up, Buttercup. Annual mandatory vaccines coming right up for the entire population. But what does the science say? We'll tackle that when we come back. And we're back. This is Mad as Hell University, giving you constructive, not destructive information and action steps. We're not just another rant fest. I'm your host, Raj Doraisamy. With the peoples of the world demanding answers from unresponsive governments, we need to ask, what does the science say? And I mean the real science, not this mixed up dog's breakfast full of contradictions that comes out of mainstream social media sources. You know, the ones that sound like toddlers. Well, here it is, the real science. 10 Israeli scientists within the Israeli Research Institute's Maccabitek, published a preprint study on natural immunity versus the COVID vaccine. And what did the study say? The study's conclusion was, and I quote, "This study demonstrated that natural immunity confers longer lasting and stronger protection against infection, symptomatic diseases, and hospitalization caused by the Delta variant of the SARS-CoV disease. Compare that to the BNT 162b2 two-dose vaccine induced immunity. In plain English, your human body is pretty darn awesome, and statistically, according to this study, can kick COVID-19 and its Delta variant without any vaccine, and better than a vaccine. With this new information, it seems to me that the CDC and federal government aren't really following the science. They would prefer propaganda and paranoia, and you know what? The last time we listened to paranoia and propaganda, you know what happened? Nazi Germany attempted to take over Europe. And then we had the Holocaust. 85 million people died in the Second World War, and that includes the Nazi death camps. Current COVID deaths as of November 9th, 2021 are roughly 5,054,000 across a population of 8 billion. And that's a big number, but I ask you, what is costlier? Paranoid propaganda without the freedom of choice, or the COVID virus? I would prefer the freedom of choice. And Dr. Simone Gold's organization, America's Frontline Doctors, is fighting that battle. In America's Frontline Doctors Vaccine Bill of Rights, Dr. Simone Gold quotes the Nuremberg Code. Why would she quote the Nuremberg Code? Because the Nuremberg Code forbids human experimentation. It comes from the Nazi war crime trials. It's international law. Do you hear me, illegitimate dictators of the world? International law. Your typical timeline for a vaccine includes up to 15 years of research and multiple rounds of trials to get it right before it's given to the general public. The first COVID vaccine was given to the public in December of 2020. Lockdowns were declared in the USA during March of 2020. That's only months, folks. Months for research and development. What does that mean? It means, just follow the math, follow the numbers. It means the COVID vaccine was a rush job. It's an experiment, and we, the people, are the laboratory animals. I'm human. I've got a right to say no. You're human. You've got a right to say no. In fact, say it with me. No. I can't hear you. Say it with me. No. You're going to have to post that no to the vaccines on social media. Trust me, it's effective. You won't even need someone to hold your beer. There's a magnificent burst of courage when we all stand together. And those powering the oppression and narratives of fear need to see it. By saying no and empowering others with our courage to speak up, that will help us switch gears and reverse the curse of COVID and leave this chaos in the dust. 3 steps coming up. Step number 1, stand up and say no. Step number 2, for those of you receiving pressure, hold the line. All of our veterans know how important it is to hold the line and then at the right moment, rush over the top towards victory. At the time of this taping, it's Veterans Day weekend. Thank a veteran. Remember their sacrifice and their courage. Stand with those men and women who, due to their positions in the government, may not be able to say as much as they'd like to. Many of them don't want the vaccines either. The vaccine issue is a hill worth dying on, folks, because the early reports are showing that if you don't fight the vaccine, there's an increased risk not only of blood clots, which can lead to heart attacks and stroke, but an increased risk of tyranny with the side of dictatorship. Step 3, sign and share the Vaccine Bill of Rights. What am I talking about? Listen up. Go to America's Frontline Doctors website. See where it says sign up in the top right corner. Next to that, there's a drop-down menu. Click Citizens. Click the Vaccine Bill of Rights. Print it, sign it, speak to your employers, send it to your senators and representatives, share it, post it, paint the town with it. And if you want, bring it to Thanksgiving dinner. There's even a button on America's Frontline Doctors website to help you spread the word and make your voice heard. How do you do that? Look for the alert button, click the alert button. You'll be taken to votersvoice.net automatically. From there, you can write, tweet, or call your state senator or representative automatically. There's even a script, a sample letter available. You don't even have to think about what to say other than say no. America's Frontline Doctors is also looking for volunteers and would appreciate your donations as they continue to advocate and provide alternative medications that are saving lives. Mad as Hell University, constructive, not destructive. Please support our sponsors and join us in the cause of freedom. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, veterans. And a recap of the action steps are coming up in 3, 2, 1.
And with that, I would like to introduce my good friend, Raj Doraisamy from Defend Our Union. Raj, welcome. We got about 8 minutes left. Please tell people about your organization and what they can do to help you.
Thank you, Dr. Diamond. I so appreciate your friendship. I appreciate what you're doing. And folks, thank you for watching Dr. Diamond's show, Unhinged. The thing that I want to say to you is what John talked about when we first started this segment. He talked about how I am that guy who did not know anything about how our country is run. I didn't know what states' rights were. I didn't know what our local state legislators were supposed to do. I knew a little bit about what was happening in Washington because of all the drama on headline news there. But here's why I'm mentioning that. Everything that Dr. Diamond talked about that's happening at Defend Our Union, at Defend Florida, it's all happening with people just like you and me. Why did I bring that up? The thing that's going to save our country or not, folks, is very, very simple. It's not what the Democrats are doing. It's not what the liberals are doing or not doing, really, although that all factors in. The thing that's going to make the difference or not is what you, the folks that are watching this, are going to do or not do. And why I'm bringing that up is I noticed for myself that during President Trump's administration and all the things that went along with that, I found myself, to be honest with you, admiring the man. I saw what he was doing for the economy. I saw how he refused to be manipulated by people that disagreed with him. I saw how he was very strong and decisive. I know he had some. He was rude on many occasions, but you know what? I admired the things that I just described. But the reason I brought that up is this: I found myself thinking to myself, you know what? President Trump's got the ball. He's got it handled. He's going to take care of everything. I don't need to. And that, my friends, is the cancer that's going to destroy us if we don't arrest that. What I mean by that, it gets worse. With my church, I said to myself, you know, the pastor's got this. I don't need to do it. With my kids' school, I said the principal's got it. I don't need to do it. In my city, the city councilman, and I didn't even know what they did. The mayor, I didn't even know what he did. I don't need to do it. And that's how we got into this mess. So at Defend Our Union, Defend Florida, what we did is we took people like me who were thinking that way, and we said, hang on, folks, we got to do a reset. No one is going to fix this for you or me. No one. Not President Trump, not Mr. Lindell, not Mike Wood, not Lynn Wood, Sidney Powell. All of these great people, they are not going to be able to save the day. What's going to save the day is you and I, and that's why this country is built by we, the people. It doesn't say we, the leaders. It doesn't say we, the celebrities. It doesn't say we the people on TV. No. It says we the people. And you know I'm talking to you, right? You know I'm talking to you. So you've got to get up and get connected and get engaged. Now, how do you do that? Let me share a story with you. You remember that Dr. Diamond earlier in the conversation mentioned how he and I met. We met at Clay Clark's conference in Tulsa. Clay Clark's an example of a guy. He's a business guy. He's got a big thriving business, but he decided that he has got to step up and engage because it's we the people. And so because of that, he put these conferences together. Now, we had folks like myself. I'm not a Clay Clark. I don't have a big business like Clay Clark. I don't have a big podcast like Clay Clark, but I showed up at Clay Clark's event. And then I met Dr. Diamond, and now we started networking. Fast forward to about a month ago, where that piece that you saw at the beginning of the video was shot at, a lady, let's just call her Carrie. Carrie came up to me and she said, Raj, my husband and I want to do something. We want to get involved. We're frustrated. We're mad. What do we do? And so she and I connected. And then I asked her to text the word MAD to 9/17/76. I had to text the word MAD to 9/17/76. Why'd I ask her to do that? Because Carrie did that. She and I got on a conversation. And now she is, after not just meeting for the first time a couple of weeks ago, she and her husband are now actually engaged in protecting the country. So I encourage you, if it's not our group, find a group, get involved. Don't just attend the meetings. Attending meetings isn't getting involved, okay? Attending meetings is watching a sport. You're sitting in the audience and you're watching the people on the field do the work, like you did a football game or a basketball game. When I say get involved, I mean get on the field. Now, what are some of the things that you can do? Well, I'll tell you what Carrie's doing. Carrie's a court reporter. And so she is going to take her skills and help document what takes place in our planning meetings so that we can remember and take action. Her husband has an engineering background. So her husband is going to look at how the vote is being manipulated in Florida, because they're over here. And he's going to use that skill with our other engineers to help communicate how our vote is being systematically manipulated. So no matter what your skill set, you could be a plumber, a house mom, a pilot, a teacher, and a CPA like myself, or a business person. You could be any of those things or something else. There is a place for you to save the country. Not only is there a place for you to save the country, you have to step up. Guys, this is not optional anymore. On November 2020, we saw that this is no longer optional. You have to step up. And Dr. Diamond, I am so appreciative of your show and allowing us to come on and talk to the people like this. I'm so excited about your upcoming show that you mentioned, where you're going to be giving biblical teaching. Love to know more about that as well.
Absolutely, Raj. We appreciate having you on. defendourunion.org. Is that the website?
Yes, the website is defendourunion.org. And that's if you're anywhere in the country. If you're in Florida, go to defendflorida.org. And if you want to get involved in the training, text the word MAD to 9/17/76. Text
awesome.
The word MAD 9/17/76.
Raj, let's do this again. Join me again tomorrow. God bless.
Faith and family, two of the most important pillars of our American constitutional republic. And nothing brings family together like good food and good fellowship. This is why Dave Smoking Woods is proud to support patriotic platforms like this one, committed to preserving this nation for the next generation. Dave Smoking Woods are ideal for family gatherings and are also sold in fine stores and used in America's finest restaurants. Find them in the America Unhinged radio store and order today at great discounts to include free shipping. Dave Smoking Wood, a proud supporter of our show.
Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.